Is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes,
He's going for it.
Yes! Oh my goal! What a goal!
And that will do it. One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And look at that. 200 MLS appearances and starts for Andre Blake. 200 episodes. Last episode for the podcast. Andre Blake and me, you couldn't have timed that any better. I kid, of course. But what a game it was against Atlanta United Wednesday night. And you guys are getting this episode a little bit later than what I normally do. By now, if you guys have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know, usually a day after the game, you get a review episode. But now it's been a couple days since Wednesday night's game against Atlanta United. And I guess I didn't really plan for that to happen the way that I did. I'll be honest, just extremely tired. And I was like, yeah, I don't have it in me to record the podcast on Thursday night. So I'm recording the podcast on Friday night. You guys are probably listening to this podcast Saturday. Hopefully, you guys that are heading up to Red Bull Arena, hopefully you guys are listening to the podcast on your way up to the stadium. I'm looking at you, Ricky Zelfro and Mike Thomas, or anybody that's on these two Sons of Ben buses going up to Red Bull Arena. Whoever is in charge of audio on that bus, what bus is, you guys should definitely stop what you're doing. If one of you guys are listening to this podcast, plug your phone into the aux cord and just play this podcast for the whole bus. That would be greatly appreciated. That would be one way to definitely spread the love, to spread the word about this podcast. I think I saw there's 174 Sons of Ben fans going up to Red Bull Arena, and that doesn't include the people that bought tickets on StubHub and everything. So there's going to be over 200 Philadelphia Union fans at Red Bull Arena today. We'll say today, even though I'm recording the podcast on Friday. And I think that's just incredible. Where when you look back in the day, the Union were constantly packing buses going up to Red Bull Arena. On Wednesday nights, they were packing buses to go up to Red Bull Arena. And we saw down in DC. We'll see, hopefully, in Atlanta when I go down, a decent amount of Union fans. But yeah, the two close trips, Red Bull Arena and DC United, a ton of Union fans are traveling down, and winning helps, right? And especially when you have a historic season, which the Union are having. Fans are going to travel. Fans are going to want to go and watch this team play because you guys know what we're witnessing is something truly, truly special. Something that I've said it before on the podcast, and I'll continue to say it. You know, you guys that have been around the team since day one, this is something that you guys, I'm sure, never thought would be possible after all the disappointments in the U.S. Open Cups. And, you know, not to take anything away from the newer fans. And, you know, I'm with you guys. I'm one of the newer fans, came aboard and going to games in 2019, started paying attention to the team in 2017. But, yeah, there's a lot of new fans of the Union, which is fine. Nobody's gatekeeping. We want all the fans that we can get. And I know as Union fans, Union Twitter, people love to gatekeep now today. There's a lot of gatekeeping that's gone on the last couple of weeks. And we talked about one of those with wearing other teams' jerseys that aren't Union jerseys to Union games. But yeah, you'd love to see it, honestly. Just hundreds of Union fans traveling for this team. And when that happens, you know, it makes it feel like to the players that they're at home, and the support means so much to them. And so, yeah, I'm hoping when we go down to Atlanta, I'm hoping we have a lot more fans in Atlanta than we had last year when I went. Charlotte, I see the Union have been advertising that game with Philly Sports Trips. I know a ton of Sons of Ben fans are going down there. A ton of Union fans are going down to Charlotte for that game. And so, again, hopefully we just continue to travel well for these away trips. And Again, two more home games left for the Union, Orlando and Toronto. And again, if you guys are debating going to a game, go. Go before the season's over, and playoff tickets are here and impossible to get. So if you guys are thinking about it, get to a stadium at Subaru Park. If you guys want to travel away, get tickets. Making that atmosphere is truly special. And yeah, I'm looking forward to turning on the TV and just seeing all you Union fans in Red Bull Arena out singing the New York Red Bull fans. But before we talk about the Philadelphia Union and Atlanta United game, and we're going to go ahead and skip the news because there's a lot that I want to talk about. Asked Jim Curtin a couple questions today in his press conference and want to play some of those clips for you guys. And by the way, if you guys haven't noticed, the last two games, home games, the Union have been live on YouTube with the press conferences. Hopefully, for you people that want to watch the midseason press conferences, hopefully the Union can figure out a way or decide to start streaming those as well. But back-to-back home games, the Union have been live after the game for the press conference, and I know that's been a huge disappointment for a lot of Union fans where the Union stopped streaming their press conferences, and it looks like they're potentially back for the remainder of the home season. Hopefully, they do it on the road as well. But I want to say to you guys that listen to episode 200. Thank you guys so much. And I know I gave you guys a big thank you at the end of that podcast, during that podcast, before that podcast. But it truly blows my mind that so many people decide to listen to this podcast. And I was at work today thinking, regardless if people listen to this podcast or not, I would still do the podcast just because I enjoy talking about the Philadelphia Union, giving them coverage. And we all know they don't get the coverage that they deserve, but it blows my mind all the time just watching how much this podcast has grown over the last couple months, seeing just people all over the country in different countries listening to the podcast. And I know that episode I didn't really have words to describe it. I still don't. It's just really mind blowing that you guys find me enjoyable, I guess, because a lot of you guys keep coming back week in, week out. And even people that aren't fans of the Union tune into the podcast. And I'm just forever grateful for you guys. We definitely need to do a jersey giveaway or something here in the next couple weeks. So I'll post details about that on social media. I'll mention it here on the podcast in a couple weeks. But yeah, I definitely want to say thank you to you guys for just tuning into the podcast. And when I give away a jersey, hopefully one of you that are listening to the podcast wind up winning that jersey. I know Mike Thomas wins like every single giveaway when I run a competition. So, Mike, if you want to enter into the podcast giveaway again, hey, go for it. But hopefully, for somebody else's sake, hopefully they can win a giveaway this time and you don't take home the prize again. But in all seriousness, for just all the support you guys give me, retweeting stuff, interacting with me on social media, listening to the podcast, just forever grateful for you guys. And I can't thank you enough. But let's go ahead and talk about the Philadelphia Union versus Atlanta United game. And with that win over Atlanta, that clinches a fifth consecutive playoff appearance for the Philadelphia Union. And it goes back to what I was talking about a few minutes ago, where if you guys that are listening, some of you guys were with the team since day one. One, you guys can't believe that the Union are having the type of season they're having with the goal scored, amount of goals that they've conceded, with it being the fewest in MLS, with them having the highest scoring trio in MLS. I mean, you guys never would have expected this. And then to see the Union clinch 5 consecutive playoff spots, that has to be mind blowing for you guys too. And it's no coincidence that all that's been happening since Ernst Tanner has been the sporting director of this team. And some people might argue and say, well, Ernst wasn't really that in 2018. He was. He took over towards the end of the season. I know majority of the season was complete by the time that Ernst took over, but Ernst definitely deserves credit for the way that 2018 end it with bringing in some pieces at the end of the season for the Union, with bringing in pieces for the start of 2019. I know 2019 was his first full season with the Union, but he deserves credit, in my opinion, for the way that things went in 2018. And what a guy Ernst Tanner is. We spent a lot of time last episode talking about Ernst Tanner, and yeah, hopefully, whenever he decides to leave the Union, hopefully that's not for a very long time. But once that happens, hopefully we have a couple more shields in our cabinet. Hopefully we have a few MLS Cup championships. Hopefully we have a CCL championship or two. And I don't know. I know it's such a English thing, a European thing, where teams name a stand after a coach or somebody just really significant for the club. But if we're not going to give Ernst Tanner a statue, what about naming one of the stands after Ernst Tanner once it's all said and done and he's off to his next soccer adventure? But yeah, hopefully we don't have to imagine that for a very long time. But well, you go ahead and look. I thought it was very evident from the first 15 minutes that this matchup was going to be a lot stronger of an opponent for the Union, an opponent that they hadn't faced in a while at home, where Atlanta United, they come out and they're setting the tempo, really dictating the play, trying to get Brooks Lennon on the ball as much as possible, play through balls through the middle of the field with Almeida and Araujo, where you look, Jacob Glesnes and Jack Elliott, they were excellent early on. And I mean, throughout this whole game, right? But the last couple home games, we really haven't seen teams come at the Union dictating the game. And that's exactly what Atlanta did against the Union within the first 15 minutes of the game. And Jack Elliott and Jacob Glesnes, they were so strong centrally for the Union, not allowing Atlanta to break them down. Yes, Atlanta United had a couple of chances, outshot the Union in the first 15 minutes of this game. But as Jim Curtin always says, yes, we might bend a little bit, but at least we didn't break. And that's exactly what happened with the Union. They did a good job just keeping their shape, not lunging into tackles, missing tackles. And I know the scoreline is the scoreline, but honestly, I think this game was a lot closer than it truly was. And you look at the time that the Union tried to counterattack. Atlanta were always getting back with their pace. They were covering the counterattack so well for the majority of this game. And you look, the Union had that counterattack in the 39th minute with Kranzer, Ua, and Gazdag. The Union break on a botched Atlanta counterattack where Kranzer gets the ball on the left side of the field. 4 Atlanta United players swarm him, which leaves Ua and Gazdag wide open on the right side of the field. Gazdag gets the ball stuck under his left foot, and when he finally releases the ball, he's able to get the shot off, and the shot was cleared off the line by Atlanta United. But really, that second touch let Gazdag down, where it got trapped behind his foot. And I believe if he would have taken a better touch, he probably would have scored that goal, because Novo, the goalkeeper for Atlanta United, he was horrible on the night. And we'll talk about the goalkeeping here in a little bit. But yeah, that's one where Gazdag was unlucky that his second touch let him down. And luckily, right before the break, the Union go in and get that goal from Mikhail Ua and go into the break at a 2-1 lead. But you look at the second half, where the Union have a similar play where Jose Martinez in the 55th minute plays a long ball over the top. The ball eventually falls to Mikel, who has a pass to Gazdag, and then Gazdag just had an excellent pass to Julian. I think maybe that pass looked even better because of the touch, the first touch by Julian Kranza, which really set him up for that shot. That was a world-class first touch, and Julian's the type of player that this team has lacked since the beginning, where no player comes close to having his first touch, his finishing ability, just with how fast he is at pulling the trigger to shoot. And you see this season why Julian Carranza cost Inter Miami $6 million. he's a talented player. He was just in a terrible situation and down and into Miami. Now he comes into a team that one is probably never going to spend $6 million on a player. He comes into a team that knows how to get the best out of his abilities, knows how to be a team, and we're reaping the benefits of Inter Miami's purchase. People want to always bag on Inter Miami for just making bad signings. Well, the Crowns' signing wasn't bad. We've seen that this season as Union fans. What kind of player Inter Miami thought they were getting? It's just they didn't know how to get the best out of Julian Kranza. They weren't a team. They had individual talent, but as a whole, it was never going to work for Carranza in Miami. He comes to Philadelphia, where the team's a superstar, and it works out. It's been working out. And don't be surprised if by the wintertime we start seeing links of Julian Carranza going to Europe. Because let's face it, whether it be this January, this winter transfer window, I don't think it's going to happen unless the Union totally get blown out of the water with an offer. After next season, I think that's when we could see Julian Carranza gone off to Europe. He's only 22 years old, so he is not even hit his prime yet. That there's still plenty of time for Carranza to be in Europe. But here's one thing too I would keep in mind, where yes, Ernst Tanner went out and signed 4 strikers it was this offseason, and then during the season giving Chris Donovan a contract. But I would not be surprised if the Union go out in the winter transfer window and sign another striker just to prepare for the possibility of Julian Carranza eventually leaving. And then, of course, Jose Riasco's with Union 2. He'll eventually get a shot with the first team, but I've always pictured him more of a Corey Burke player replacement, not really a Julian Carranza or Mikael Uhr player. There's just two total skill sets between Jose Riasco and the type of striker that Mikael and Julian are. But I digress. Julian Carranza, great release point. Won that shot, should have scored in the 55th minute, had Novo completely beat. And the only thing that I think is concerning about Julian Carranza was he was 1 for 4 on his shots in this game with 3 shots off target. And when playoff time comes around, you're only going to get a limited amount of chances to score. And so you do hope that gets corrected by the time playoffs start, unless the Union just continue to dominate teams come playoff time. I don't think that's going to happen because when playoff times come, teams play super defensive when they're on the road, try to hit you on the counterattack. We saw it last year against New York Red Bulls, against Nashville, and especially with the way that Philadelphia's played this season at home. Expect teams to come into Subaru Park and really bunker down come playoff time. But that's the only thing that I would really complain about in regards to Julian is his amount of wasted shots. And we'll talk about shot percentage here in a bit as well. And then you go ahead and look, Caleb Wiley got the best of Bizo in the 58th minute where he did a bunch of step overs. Bizo eventually bit and Caleb Wiley dribbled right past him. But, other than that, nothing else was too concerning in this game for me. One thing I want to point out too, where I'm glad that I'm recording this podcast on Friday because in my notes originally, I didn't have this listed down. I was curious to see because I saw a whole bunch of Atlanta United fans complaining, oh, the Union are wasting time. The Union are doing this, Union that. There was more fouls by Atlanta United than Union players. And of course, the Union are going to be on the floor because your team keeps fouling. But when you throw in the amount of throw-ins, corner kicks, fouls for both teams, there was 67 stoppages of play in this game between these two teams. And that's a lot of stoppages where it's hard for teams to find their rhythm. Where, part of it probably was in the game plan for Atlanta to foul the Union, to get them off the game. But really, to have 67 stoppages in this game, and they still scored 4 goals. I mean, that tells you right there that the Union are in terrific form. Where, and yes, there was a lot of fouls in Dallas, and the Union couldn't get anything going in that game. I think they only had one shot, one target. But you look at this game, the Union didn't let that affect them. And maybe part of the reasons why they didn't allow all the fouls and throw ins and everything, stoppages to affect them this time was because one, they're playing at home as opposed to on the road. But two, I just think that we're seeing the chemistry between the front three and just the team in general just really blossom into something truly special. And uh, yeah, it helps. It helps when you have Carranza, Ua, and Gazag in the form that they're in. And Jim always says it, it starts with defense first. The defense that the strikers and Daniel Gazag provide, that defense transitions into the rest of the team. And so all three of those guys have been working their tails off defensively and offensively. And the whole team's just reaping the rewards because of those guys. But I do want to say, credit to the Union for just staying organized with all those stoppages. We saw Atlanta United just try to have a couple quick throw-ins, couple fast restarts with free kicks, and the Union stayed nice and compact, organized, and really didn't bite. And I do have to mention Corey Burke here real quick, where yes, I'll keep mentioning Corey's name for the rest of the season. If he keeps producing, I'll keep giving him credit because it's easy to get down on a player. It's easy to not give a player credit when they're not in good form. But you look at the last 10 games for Corey Burke, he has 4 goals, 4 assists. And he also had that assist against Atlanta United. He's been in great form. And there's a player who, the Union believe in his talent. They believe in the player. That's why he's been with the team for as long as he has. They know he's a talented player, but there was times this season when after 10, 15 minutes of him being on the field, he stopped pressing, he stopped hustling, he stopped trying to win the ball back. And how many times have we seen the last couple of games, Corey Burke going all the way back in defense, winning the ball back, and then quickly releasing that ball and then running forward to get involved into the attack. He's been playing as a brand new summer signing, basically. And to have a player that can come off the bench, and I know a lot of his goals have been scored when the Union are up by a ton of goals, but you still got to score the goals. You still got to get involved. You still have to make those runs. And this Corey Burke that we're seeing now in the last 10 games, this is a completely different player than we've seen at the beginning of the season. This is a player that is hustling. This is a guy who is busting his butt to make plays happen for the Union, to say, hey, look, Jim, I deserve some starting minutes here. I deserve to come onto the field earlier than the 60th minute. And we've been looking for a player to be that super sub since El Senior has been gone. And if Corey Burke can be that player, if Corey Burke can be that difference maker in the playoffs, we will take it. And so I will continue to give Corey Burke credit for the good things that he's doing on the field. Because again, it's easy to bash a player when they're in terrible form. But, I think to suck up your pride and admit, hey, look, I was wrong. This guy's turned around his season. Not a lot of people are willing to do that. We see the same thing with Leon Flock. We saw the same thing with the people last year calling Daniel Gazag a bum, a bust. Now those people are quiet. We had people at the beginning of the season say Mikhail Uwa is a bum, a bust. And now those people are quiet. And so I just think as fans, as people that follow this team, give players the credit they deserve that were once in terrible form. And Corey Burke's one of those players that deserves to get all the praise the last 10 games. And then the other player I want to bring up is Daniel Gazdag. He breaks the Union's goal scored record in the regular season with 17 goals. He also has the most goal involvement in a single season with 25 for the Union. Yeah, he's been fantastic this season. And Jim Curtin was asked after the game Wednesday night, what's the credit for the form that Daniel Gazdag is on this season?
I think comfort with the teammates, comfort with the new country, comfort with his family being here, and all those things are a factor for sure. He's playing incredible soccer, though. I've never seen and worked with a player, and this is going to sound stupid. It's going to sound childish, but when there's two strikers that we have, when it's Julian Ure or Julian and Corey, whoever it might be, I've never seen a player make deep runs and be as completely wide open as he is when he runs through. It's almost like he goes invisible, and like he disappears and people don't see him, because we sit on the sidelines and go, there he is again, wide open again, right down the middle, like dead down the middle of the field. So he does something deceptive. There's no question about it with the timing of his movements. And that's something I can't take credit for. Coaching staff can't get any credit for. He has natural instincts in the game and has a feel that is different and unique. So when balls bounce to him in the box, it's at this point, after 17 goals, it's not coincidence, and he has a way of almost disappearing, and people don't pick him up till the end. And he could have probably had a couple more goals tonight, even the one where he goes down the middle with Mikel, and they have a little 2v1. It just, the ball checks up on him and he doesn't get it out from under his feet. So we say it all the time on the sidelines, like, do they not see him out there? Like, he's running dead down the middle and getting open all the time. So great player in great form, and really carrying the load for us offensively, along with Julian and Mikel.
The form that Daniel's been on. What more can I say about this guy, right? What more can we bring up that hasn't been brought up about Daniel Gazdag? He's the 10 that this team's always been searching for. He's a 10 that's a difference maker. And what do the best teams in MLS have? They have a strong number 10, Hani Mukhtar, Drusi with Austin, where, yes, I know he's listed as a striker. He comes deep as a 10. So if you want to be successful in this league, you got to have good strikers, but you also have to have a good creator. And that's what the Philadelphia Union have in Daniel Gazdag. And, we talk all the time about just how this team is so historic. And I might have talked about it on Twitter Spaces. I can't remember. That was a long episode. I might have talked about it in the previous episode where, we're seeing time after time on Twitter where all these tweets are going out saying, oh, the Union broke this record. The Union broke that record. They set in a 3-game span the most goals scored with 16. They're in unbelievable form. They tied the most wins in a single season against Atlanta with 16. So, not only are they breaking their own records, but they're breaking MLS records. And you do feel like that if the Union don't win a trophy, it kind of feels like this season's been a waste. But I think, and yes, I know I'm sighing, but I do think, regardless if this team wins a trophy or not, and I hope that they do, hopefully it's MLS Cup. I know that's the one fans really, really want. I would love to see them win the double this season with the Shield and the Cup as LAFC continue to fall. Hopefully that continues to happen with them having a much harder schedule than the Union. They have to go to Minnesota. They have to play Portland away. Houston they have to play again, who they lost to. So it's going to be tough for LAFC, and they play Nashville as the last game of the season, which could potentially be decisive for them winning the Shield or not. So definitely something to keep your eye out on, how LAFC does towards the end of the season. But yeah, you can't say that this team hasn't been fun to watch. You want them to cap off this season with a trophy, but I think there's no taking away from what this team has done this season. This is, regardless of a trophy or not, this is going to be one of the greatest regular seasons ever from a team in MLS history. And yes, those type of teams get talked about once they win a trophy. And you do hope that they win a trophy so national media can continue to talk about this 2022 team. But if a trophy isn't won, is it a wasteful season? It kind of feels like it is, right? But you look, time and time again, all these records broke from this team. Some of these records you might not see broke for a very, very long time. And to see it coming from your Philadelphia Union, again, I go back to fans that have been with this team since day one. I mean, it's got to be so hard for you guys to imagine seeing what you guys are seeing. And the last couple weeks too, we've seen some horrific goalkeeping the last couple weeks against the Union. Where for you people that might not like stats, you guys might be bored by these next two segments, so maybe skip to 10, 15 minutes ahead in this podcast if you guys don't want to hear this segment. But if you look at the goalkeeping that the Union have faced in the last couple games, William Yarbrough for the season, he averages 63.6% saves, where against the Union, he saves 66.7% of the shots. And Gaga Salino on the season has saved 63.5% of his shots faced. Versus the Union, he saved 42.9% of the shots, which is terrific. Out of these four goalkeepers that I'm going to bring up, Gaga was definitely the worst on the night. Novo, the goalkeeper for Atlanta United on the season, he saved 60.6% of the shots. Against the Union, he saved 54.5% of the shots. And then Romo, the goalkeeper for DC United, a lot of people have said he's the worst goalkeeper ever in MLS history. I think that might be taking it a little bit too far, but yeah, he's been horrific on the season. He saved 59.8% of his shots, and against the Union, he only saved 50% of the shots. And I always like to look at advanced analytics, and I told you guys a couple weeks ago the reason I don't bring up goalkeeping analytics that much is because I don't fully understand it. So why am I going to talk about something that I don't fully understand? And so I looked at, and those four goalkeepers, PSXG, which is post shots, expected goals minus goals allowed. And again, if you guys don't know what that is the positive numbers. It suggests that the goalkeepers are above average at stopping shots. And so Gaga has a 1.2%. He's above average. Even though his save percentage might not show that, I think a lot of that comes down to how bad Chicago's defense is. You look at Novo, he's at negative 4.2. That is so far below average. You look at William Yarbrough, negative 4.4, and then Romo, negative 5.2. I mean, you're not even getting slightly below average from 3 out of 4 of those goalkeepers. You were getting super, super, super terrible goalkeepers. And again, the reason I bring up the save percentage is because the PSXG backs up that, yeah, these goalies aren't good with their save percentage, with their PSXG. And you look at Andre Blake, his PSXG is 6.4. That's the second highest in MLS this season. The only goalkeeper that's above him is Petrovic, the goalkeeper in New England, who, the last couple of years, we saw what Matt Turner was, what he was able to do with New England. But if Petrovic, I know he's only played 15 games, but if he can keep up this form, yeah, I mean, he looks to be one of the best goalkeepers in MLS, even though it's only 15 games that he's played this season. And I go ahead and look, out of the 28 starting goalkeepers in MLS, the average save percentage, and again, I'm talking about Yarbrough, Selena, Nova, and Romero's save percentage. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Where I would say a good average save percentage a goalie should be 68% or higher. In this season in MLS, the average save percentage is 59.9 out of all the 28 starting goalkeepers in MLS, which is terrible. I mean, it tells you how bad goalkeeping is in MLS when Euro snobs, where European fans want to say, oh, the goalkeeping in MLS is terrible. Yeah, this season, it has been horrific. There is some really good goalies in MLS, Andre Blake being the best. But I went ahead and looked at the highest save percentages in MLS since MLS switched to a 34-game schedule starting in 2011. And no goalkeeper in MLS since 2011 has had a save percentage of 80% or higher. And the only goalkeeper this season in MLS who has a save percentage of 80 or higher is Andre Blake with 81.3. I mean, that is unheard of for a goalkeeper to save 81.3% of the shots that they face. And I don't know how many of you guys realize this, but what we're seeing from Andre Blake, not even Nick Raimondo, Tony Miola did. What Andre Blake is doing, he set the bar so high for goalkeeping. If the season ended with Andre Blake with an 81.3 save percentage, I'm being honest, I don't know if he would ever come close to matching that again because that is so unheard of in today's soccer landscape where we've talked about, I know, in the past in the podcast, where teams look for goalkeepers that are good at playing out of the back, that can play with both feet. They don't really look towards shot stoppers. But Andre Blake is the best shot stopper in MLS with 81.3% shots saved. I mean, again, just unheard of. It is crazy what Andre Blake is doing. He is setting historic numbers. And so I was so blown away by those stats. I asked Jim Curtin, what do you credit the success of Andre Blake having a historic season to?
He's good. No, I'm joking. Look, Andre, I've spoken so much about how much Andre means to this club. I do think he should be considered for MVP. He won't be, but I think he deserves that. I hope he wins goalkeeper of the year. All these guys have worked really, really hard on the field. I think Tony Miola is the only one to ever do it, and that's obviously great company. That was at a time in the league. No knock on Tony, but there was, I think, 12 teams in the league. So with 28 for a goalkeeper to do it would be really special. I understand and respect Druisi and Mukhtar and Gazdag, the years that those three have had. But as I say, is Andre should be considered, and more we should look to defensive players and goalkeepers to just bring them up and at least mention them occasionally for the top accolades in the league.
And again, it goes down to what I talked about on the last episode where MVP should be not the best player on the team, but it should be the most valuable player. That's exactly what MVP stands for. And Andre Blake is certainly in that conversation for most valuable player for the Union. Kai Wagner, Jack Elliott, most valuable players. But again, fans are going to go ahead and vote for offensive players. Fans love goals, but seriously, Andre Blake should be considered an MVP just because of the historic numbers he is putting up. And you go ahead and look, and we talk about all the goals scored by the Union. And you look at their shots on target percentage since MLS switched to a 34-game schedule, again, in 2011. Only 5 teams since 2011 have had a shots on target percentage of 40 or higher. And the Union are currently at 40% right now in MLS. And that is the most, tied with Toronto for shots on target. And I went ahead and looked at the Union's last 10 games. So the last 10 games, that's below their one-season average of 40%. They had a 33.2% shots on target average over the last 10 games. But you look, the last 5 games, they're at 46.5% shots on target. It's unreal how many times the Union are hitting the target. And I know I was just talking about Julian Kranza hitting shots off target. But you look at Mikhail Uor, he's a player who's constantly hitting the target for the Union. Daniel Gazdag constantly hitting the target. And you want to be successful? You need to put the ball in the back of the net. How do you do that? You have to have shots on target. And so I asked Jim Curtin, what do you credit your success to the last 5 games?
I'll thank Quick Goal for that one. We had a custom goal made that I'll just say it's the appropriate width. It's the 24 feet that a goal is wide, but it's only 3 feet high. And if you see all of our guys, they have a real concerted effort to hit the target. And when we use these goals in training, I think it helps. I think that that goes a long way. So when you talk about our third pillar, it is innovation, and we had an idea that would help with changing equipment. I think it helped us a lot. I think that is why our guys focus and hit the target. We don't have the most shots by any stretch. We don't create the most, but when we are shooting, we are concentrating and hitting the target. And I think it's done on the training field, and the players kind of bought into that. So sometimes, again, I'm not going to take credit for that. I'll give it to others. And Quick Goals aided in that. Our staff does work with our players quite a bit with the finishing each and every day. I think that's a good observation that we're a team that's pretty efficient with our shooting, but it's certainly something that's utilized on the training ground, with the equipment that we have been supplied with from Quick Goal.
The Union are never going to be a team that spends the most in MLS. And so they got to find other ways to get ahead of the curve, get ahead of the game. And yes, analytics certainly help. Uh, the Philadelphia Union are one of the most analytical teams in MLS. I believe I either read a article on The Athletic that backed that, or it was somebody from San Jose that wrote an article on that. But the Philadelphia Union are up there with some of the highest users of analytics in the sport. And another way that they try to get ahead of the sport is by innovation. We've talked about different ways they've done that in the past, but look, finding a way to get shots on target by making a shorter goal with height, keeping the same length, that's so smart. And I'm sure we'll probably see other teams follow suit. Like we saw teams, invest into their academies, just like the Union, just like Dallas. Teams in MLS have seen how successful that is. And they go ahead and steal the idea that the Union created with their academy, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, to see the Union just find little things that can separate them from the highest spenders to all right, well, we're not going to spend the most, but we're going to go ahead and change our equipment to invest in different analytics to analyze the data differently. And these ways are going to set us apart from all the other teams in MLS. And you guys have seen it the last 5 games with a 46.5 shots on target percentage. I mean, you gotta love that, right? You gotta love the honesty, the transparency that Jim Curtin gives every single week, admitting, look, um, it's not me, it's others that are helping this team be successful, and he's truly one of the best coaches in MLS. With being a man manager, getting the most out of his players, with giving others credit. I know today too he talked for a while about the sports science department, giving them a ton of credit for just keeping the players fit. And I'll go ahead and leave the link to the press conference on Friday in the show description if you guys want to check that out. Keep in mind too that the Union always upload those after every single press conference on the website, and so if you guys want to check that out again, it'll be in the show description for you guys to listen to. But that's pretty much all my thoughts on the Atlanta United game. Quickly, I want to go ahead and talk about my 3 stars. Number 1 is Mikel Ua, 1 goal. He only had 2 shots. Again, we just talked about shots on target. 50% of his shots were on target. 1 goal on 2 shots. That's clinical. 1 assist, 2 key passes, 17 touches. And look, only 17 touches. He had 2 key passes, 1 goal in this game. Imagine if the Union could get Mikel Ua on the ball a lot more. Just think about how many more goals he would have on the season. Yes, he has 10 goals on the season. Yes, the Union have 3 10-plus goal scorers on the season. But I feel like Mikel's numbers would be a lot closer with Daniel, with Julian's, if the Union could get him on the ball a little bit more. And he also won 4 out of 7 ground duels. Number 2 on the night for me was Jose Martinez, 33 out of 42 passes complete. Most of his passes were forward, which you don't really get a lot from number 6s. You see a lot of backward passes, a lot of side-to-side passes from the 6s. And it's not just in MLS. It's all in the world. Teams want a 6 to be an enforcer, which Jose Martinez is. But he's also a playmaker, which not a lot of 6s in the world are. Jose Martinez is both, and he's been terrific the last couple games for the Union. He's at his best. He's doing what Jose Martinez did last year. And when Jose's playing the way that he's playing the last couple games, there's no number 6s in MLS better than him. He also had 3 interceptions, 2 tackles. I mean, he literally covered ground everywhere. If you look at his heat map, he was literally everywhere on the field. Yes, in the middle of the field, but he was on the right side of the field in the right back spot. He was covering ground everywhere, winning balls back for the Union. And you love to see Jose Martinez play the way that he's playing lately. And then number 3, Kai Wagner, 1 assist, 25 out of 31 passes complete, 5 key passes. The most creative player on the Union is a left back. Crazy, I know. 1 interception, 1 tackle, 1. 2 out of 4 ground duels, 1. And he also, that assist that he picked up was his 30th ever for the Union, which passes Harris Union for second all time. Man, so glad we get to keep this guy for the rest of the season as the transfer window is closed. But those are my 3 stars on the night from the Union. And let's go ahead and break down the goals. Starting off with that Julian Carranza goal, which happened in the 18th minute. And so the Union go ahead, and Jack Elliott's the one who dribbles this ball into the midfield. Jack Elliott's going to go ahead and misplace a pass. The pass that he misplaced falls to the Atlanta player. And as soon as Jack Elliott gives the ball away, and the Atlanta player miskicks it, Jack Elliott goes out for a 50-50 ball. Of course, he's going to win the header. Jack hits the ball down to Daniel Gazdag. And the connection between the front 3, the movement on and off the ball is just, you can't teach that stuff. So Daniel Gazdag passes the ball to Mikhail Uhre. Mikhail Uhre is going to go ahead and just hold the ball up. And he eventually finds a pass to Julian Carranza outside of the box. And it's a terrific finish from Julian Carranza, who doesn't even touch inside the 18-yard box. He stays outside the 18 the whole time, and the ball eventually comes to him because of Mikhail Uhre. But this, is, in my opinion, is terrible goalkeeping from Novo. Got beat by his near post. Shouldn't have happened. Bad positioning. Yes, Julian Carranza couldn't have placed that ball any better, but a goalkeeper should not be getting beat that far out by a low-driven shot. Again, the Union catch a break. Great finish here, but terrible goalkeeping. One of the 6 defenders that were near Julian Carranza should have got a foot on this to block the shot. Ball gets by every single one of them, and the Union go up 1-0. And go ahead and look in the 24th minute goal courtesy of Andrew Gutman for Atlanta United. This ball is going to be passed from Almeida to Araujo, who gets a shot blocked. Almeida is going to go ahead and take a shot here. Andre Blake makes a strong save with his left hand, but Strong was so powerful that Andre Blake's not able to knock the ball out. It stays in play, and Andrew Gutman's first to react with it with a strong header. Kai Wagner kept him on sides here a little bit. I think if Kai would have been in line with Jacob Glesnes and Bizo, then yeah, Gutman 100% would have been off. But Kai Wagner has Brooks Lennon wide open on the left side of the field. He has to be aware of him. Nobody's stepping to the ball for Almeida. And then he still has Andrew Gutman wide open. And so Kai Wagner is going to go ahead and try to step to the ball, which is the right play. But, strong shot from Almeida, great save from Andre Blake with his left hand. But because Kai Wagner had a step to the shot from Almeida, nobody picks up Andrew Gutman, and he has a free header on goal. We go ahead and look in the 48th minute goal courtesy of Mikhail Uhre. And this was in stoppage time, 45 plus 3. We have a corner kick from the Union. Great ball in from Kai Wagner. Gets a flick on from Ale Bedoya. And another player might have touched that. Hard to see who touched it. And goal there from Mikhail Uhre. Sosa looked like it hit him in the hand when he tried to dive down to block this shot. But we've seen the Union score a ton of goals on set pieces this season. Great flick one here from Ale Bedoya. We've seen Ale go near post runs a lot of times, but Ale stays in the center of the box. Nobody really picks up Ale. You had Andrew Gutman's trying to mark Ale Bedoya here. You had 4 guys really play a zonal system, which we see a lot of zonal and man marking. So Andrew Gutman was one of the players supposed to be marking Ale Bedoya. And we see Jacob Glesnes make a run towards the near post, pull a guy off for Ali Bedoya. But yeah, this is just bad defending from Gutman. Doesn't get in front of Ali Bedoya. One of the zonal guys misses the header. Ale gets a flick on. None of the guys on the back post for Atlanta United pick up the ball. Nobody picks up Mikel Ua, and Mikel is able to first time the shot in. Again, like I said, hits Sosa in the arm. Could have been a potential penalty, but the shot's strong enough. It takes a deflection. 2-1 for the Union. We go ahead in the 67th minute. Goal courtesy of Daniel Gazdag. And you look at this. Terrible goalkeeping here from Novo. The second time in this game that we saw bad goalkeeping from him. So this is going to be crossed in by Jose Martinez. Plays a great cross in, which I don't think Jose gets a ton of crosses, but every time we see Jose on the right side of the field, I feel like he's always putting in a good cross. We saw earlier in the season against Columbus, he had that cross that wasn't handled well by Eloy Room. Ball goes in the back of the net because he drops it. And that was all courtesy of Jose Martinez sending in a good cross into the box. Sends in another good cross here. Header gets hit up by Julian Carranza. Corey Burke's going to go ahead and go for this header. Novo comes out, completely misses the ball, and Daniel Gazdag just has a tap in. But again, we talked about Corey Burke. 4 assists, 4 goals in his last 10 games. That is courtesy of Corey Burke working his tail off to win this ball back for the Union, heads the ball to Daniel Gazdag, and the Union go up 3-1. And then in the 90th minute +5, 95th minute, Nate Harriel gets his first career goal, first goal by a right back in quite a while for the Union. This ball is going to be played with Jack McGlynn and Paxton Aronson. Nobody follows Paxton Aronson. He has all the space, all the time in the world in the 18-yard box. Andrew Gutman should have been on him. Paxton Aronson's going to go ahead and play a low-driven ball into Corey Burke. It takes a deflection. Nate Harriel hits the ball. It hits off of Sosa's hand. Would have been called for a handball. Nobody follows up the ball but Nate Harriel, and Nate Harriel go ahead and finishes this ball to put the Union up 4-1, ends the game for the Union. But again, it's all about reacting first to the ball and who's showing more ambition, showing more hustle. We saw Andrew Gutman show that for Atlanta's goal, but the Union's last 2 goals of the game with Corey Burke getting the assist for Daniel Gazdag and Nate Harriel scoring his first career goal. Both of those goals came because of hustle, because of being first to react to the ball. And that's how this game ends against Atlanta United 4-1. And let's go ahead and talk about Blunder of the Week. And so I know it was either yesterday or today on Twitter where Alexi Lawless goes and talks about not giving the Union credit, saying that the Dupe song sucks, talking about how the stadium in Chester sucks after he just gave the Union a ton of credit on Fox Sports. And I know some people said this should be Blunder of the Week. I know there was an assassination attempt on one of the officials of the FA in Argentina. Luckily, the vice president was not shot. A gunman held a gun to her head. The gun misfired. Fortunately, she did not get killed, but they postponed all the games in Argentina because of the assassination attempt. And that was going to be Blunder of the Week, but I already had this picked out from Wednesday night. And my Blunder of the Week is going to go ahead to Bethesda Soccer Club. And so whoever is running Bethesda Soccer Club's news Twitter account, they put out the following tweet in response to DC United announcing the homegrown signing of Christian Fletcher. And they said, "This is why DC United and MLS get a bad rap. From their pipeline, we must have imagined that Christian played with us from 7 years old to 16. Maybe they meant Bethesda's pipeline, but got confused." And so DC United posted a picture of Christian in a Loudoun uniform playing with Loudoun United. And they said, "From our pipeline." And they never said, "Yeah, we developed Christian." I think they sent out that tweet saying, "From our pipeline." meaning from the DMV, another player coming from the DMV. But whoever is running this Bethesda news account, they took it as, oh, DC United saying they developed this player. But I didn't take it as that. I took it as them saying another player coming from the DMV, another player that got a chance at Loudoun United, now playing for the first team of DC United. Not saying, oh yeah, we're the ones who developed Christian. They're not saying that at all. But again, whoever's running this news Twitter account for Bethesda took total offense to this. And so they followed up that tweet by saying, if DC United is fabricating that they developed Christian Fletcher, then who else on their homegrown list was actually developed by another club? Christian played 0 minutes for their academy, not a single minute. Maybe Wayne Rooney was developed by them too. And you go ahead and look. This is so childish, coming from one of the most prestigious club teams in Maryland. That they come out and say on their mission statement on their website and say they are committed to creating a competitive, supportive, challenging, and fun environment for all of our players to reach their potential. Christian is reaching his potential, and whoever is running this account is completely crying about it. Your mission statement says that you are committed to creating a competitive, you guys are competitive, a supportive, not sure about that, challenging, yeah, you guys play against other good teams, and a fun environment for all of our players to reach their potential. Christian has reached his potential of playing club soccer. He reached his potential so much that DC United's Loudoun United gave him a contract. And he impressed so much with Loudoun United that DC United gave him a homegrown contract because he qualified as a homegrown player with being in the DMV. And this person, whoever it is controlling this account, is not happy at all. They took it way too far. And look, my whole issue is reading their mission statement, they want to have their players reach their potential. Christian reaches potential. It is not at Bethesda anymore. He's a 17-year-old. He does not need to be playing club soccer anymore. You got him to the pros. You guys did your job. And you look, as a club soccer team, clubs have parents pay an astronomical fee to play club soccer. All players must register and attend tryouts each and every single year. There is a registration fee for a tryout. Now, if you are a current Bethesda Soccer Club player, then it is free to retry out the following year, including players graduating from the Soccer Juniors program. But if you are not a Bethesda Soccer Club player, then you have to pay $25 to try out. All right, great. You made the team. And so I've seen a lot of people give different cost totals for this club soccer team. I'm not seen anything official because club soccer teams rarely announce that. But most people agree that they were paying over $2,500 per year for their kid to play on Bethesda. And so if we're to believe that that's the average price to play for Bethesda, then Christian spent 9 years at Bethesda, which means that his parents would have paid over $22,500 to play for the club. And you're complaining about, oh, DC United not sending you money. You're complaining about, oh, DC United signing one of your players. 9 years this kid played for you guys, and you took over $22,000 from his parents. And yes, you can get scholarships for playing for Bethesda, but they never mentioned that Christian got a scholarship. And so I imagine if Christian did get a scholarship, then they would have said something on social media, but they never did. They said, where's our money from DC United? You owe us money. Why are you taking credit for developing Christian? That never happened. And so this bothers me because of the stupid pay-to-play system in America. It is ridiculously expensive. And I feel like if you're a good soccer player, you want to play pro, you've got to play club soccer. You've got to get into a D1 school to get noticed. And to spend over $22,000 for 9 years. And you're complaining that, oh, where's the money for developing him? You took the money from his parents to play for the club. So why are you guys complaining about money? You got your money from this kid's parents. But let's not talk about just him. You guys are getting so much money from all these other kids in your academy. But let's not talk about the fact when a kid's not living up to your potential, you guys cut ties with the players because you guys make kids retry every single season for your program. And if they're not up to your standard, you cut them from the team. But you have no problem taking the money. But you guys are complaining, saying, oh, DC United, they're taking credit for developing Christian. No, they're not. But you guys aren't complaining about the money that his parents paid you, are you? You're not. And so Bethesda Soccer Club, you guys are getting my blunder of the week. But real quick, before I end the podcast, I want to go ahead and talk about my 3 keys to the victory against New York Red Bulls. Number 1, win the midfield battle. These are the 2 highest tackling teams in the midfield, with New York Red Bulls attempting 292 tackles, while the Union have attempted the second most with 218 in the midfield. Christian Cáceres is New York Red Bulls' highest tackling player in the midfield with 46 attempted tackles. He is suspended for this match because of yellow card accumulation. That's a huge blow for New York Red Bulls, but I still think that they're going to be good in the midfield. Number 2, you got to defend set pieces well. Philadelphia Union have scored 11 goals off set pieces this season, which is the 4th most in MLS this season, while they've also conceded the fewest set piece goals this season with 2. Meanwhile, New York Red Bulls have scored the 6th most goals off set pieces with 9, while they're tied with the 5th fewest set pieces conceded with 7. And then finally, defend the long shot. New York Red Bulls have the 5th most shots outside the box per game with 5.3 attempts, while they're also tied for the 3rd most goals outside the box with 8. And so, yeah, every time these 2 teams play, we know that they're going to press the hell out of each other. We know that the midfield is probably where the game is going to be won or lost, but it's going to be fine margins for this. Don't expect a blowout. Don't expect the Union to put up a ton of goals against the Red Bulls because we never see that between these 2 clubs. But I believe if the Union can follow those 3 keys, they will leave Red Bull Arena with all 3 points, which will be huge for them this season. We also know Red Bulls do not win at home. They have more wins on the road than they do at home. So this should be an interesting game. It will be interesting to see how many New York Red Bull fans are at the stadium. But really looking forward to this game on Saturday. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod, wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. Check out the website, thefreekick.net. And by the time you guys are done listening to this podcast, maybe there will be an article on the website again for you guys to check out for a match preview. But yeah, again, thank you guys for the support with the podcast. We'll try to get a commentator on the podcast here in the next couple weeks. It's hard when you don't get responses back, but we're trying. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.